meditation of the people's image project on this world is different. Quite different. So that's why connotation is very important. Sometimes during the day-to-day conversation, yeah, chant, meditation, you can just using no different. But if you work on field study, you have to at least you aware, you recognize sometimes the word meaning the other thing in some context, but mean the other thing on the other context. So that's why you have to very be careful on that. So chant, dhyana, and the meditation. The author first give not definition, but at least to point out that have different meaning in different words, in different contexts. Okay. So the author suggests chant, a purely phonic transcription of the Indian word dhyana. Okay, that is actually Chinese translation. The first word, first century, when the Indian text into Chinese into China, the first generation of the translator like An Shigao, he already coined the term child. So that is very interesting because, like for example, compared to the Chan, you all know the like Sanyata, right? Sunita, okay. But in China, the first generation of the translator, he decided using the Chinese word called home is mean emptiness, right? They didn't like the chant using the sound, although I don't know how. Maybe that is the dialect from that time, first century. They the chant. Oh, I don't know how that, but that is not something like home. Then using this Chinese word, if you direct translate to English, so that's why we always use emptiness, right? So I believe a lot of you already know. If you direct say emptiness mean nothing, but in China, in original meaning and Sanyata and the Kong, it means something. It means have something but impermanent fixed. Right? So it's a different connotation, different implication. So that's why every time when we using the term, especially translation term, you have to watch out. Have to watch out. Okay? So Chan, the author suggests, the author like An Shigao, first century, he already decided he cannot find any parallel term in China to actually translate this word. So he decided to using Chan, right? It's a purely, yes.
So even I myself, I cannot recognize the similarity between chant and the honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even that, every time the language, the word after the translation, always some new meaning will put in, and some always because sometimes it come out from different cultural context, different cultural context. But that is the author say in the first century at that time, 2,500 years ago, An Shigao, the first generation, the translator, decide this word cannot using any Chinese character like this to replace. So that's why he take the phonic transcription, take this way to translate the other. Okay? So it indicates that is a profound meaning, and he cannot find any Chinese character can represent it. Okay? So that's why he also say. So in the English term we call Buddhist meditation, right? Buddhist meditation is a kind of the literal translation about the Chan into English, right? So Buddhist translation, meditation transcribed by the Chan was in this way marked as something foreign to the Chinese imaginary because it's not like a Kong. It's an original Chinese word, right? Chan actually is an exclusively foreign word. It's not original Chinese word. Okay? So was marked as something foreign to the Chinese imaginary and endowed with an ecstaticism comparable to that of the Zen in modern English. Zen actually is the same fashion. When 16th century, the Catholic missionary, first they found that Japan practiced something just like the meditation. Because meditation actually in the English term, they have their Christianity, every religion have their own meditate tradition, right? So like Christianity during like 3rd century or 2nd century, they already had a desert monk. The Catholic monk actually practice meditation very deeply. And during like the 7th or 8th century, if you visit Turkey or any place, they have a monastery, they're very isolated. They prohibit the people visit the monastery, right? So all the monk, Christian monk, stay in that monastery, they vow, they won't go out. They just stay in that monastery forever, meditate. So actually meditation is a kind of the English term. They have a very profound cultural meaning. So when 16th century, the Catholic missionary found out in Japan, they also have something meditation. At that time, they decide they won't translate meditation. They just keep the original Zen to represent Japanese meditation. So it is the same fashion. It's the same fashion, okay? But today, 21st century, we always meditation, mindfulness, Zen, everything is a Zen, right? Zen food, Zen flavor, right? And so that's why in the popular level, Zen, meditation, Chan, you can see it's the same word. But in the field of study, if you study this one, we have to be aware that have a different connotation, different meaning, okay?
With a lot of connotation from
And
original code. Shan.
Yeah, something like that, right? Because you have to trace the original function, original meaning of this word in their own cultural context. Sometimes it's very easy. When we say appropriate, it means we just using that word, right, into our culture and imbue our cultural meaning, and just borrow that word. Okay, like in American, we are freely to appropriate Native Indian culture and the term of some there and into Western meaning, so right? So that's called a cultural appropriation. Sometimes we have to be careful.
Okay. So the connotation of the Shan and Sin is far cry from Gong, or just preserve
No,
the original meaning.
no,
Or
I believe based on our field study, we only need to aware is a different. Sometimes we using this word in this context has some meaning. Okay, so that's why sometimes you read, sometimes they also using chant, sometimes we also using meditation.
Oh.
That's because also think in this context, meditation is okay. But in this particular context, he will choose chant instead using meditation. That has some meaning of that, okay?
So the original Gong is emptiness, right? Emptiness is not meditation.
Well, emptiness is a very classical. I don't know. It's called corruption or something. But anyway, when you translate into emptiness in English term, it's very easy to think it means nothing. Because emptiness is empty. It's nothing. Right? So that's why every time when you're using emptiness to talk about Mahayana idea about the Sanyata, for me, I always say it's an impermanent. Impermanent is to represent.
Yeah.
Okay. This means it's not fixed. It's depending.
It's actually, I think, non-self for the represent.
No self.
Yeah.
Kind of.
There is nothing. And also one more meaning, I think the Nibbana.
Yeah.
There is nothing. That's why it's called Sunyata.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that is a Buddhist terminology, and sometimes I just point out this is we have to be careful. Okay? Don't assume using our own cultural idea to assume the word coming from the other.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, when almost no Buddhist vocabulary escape borrowing and appropriation by other Chinese religious and philosophical movements, the word Chan always retain a specifically Buddhist connotation. So every time when you talk like a Kong, right, this kind of term shared by different Chinese religion and different people, because this is a common word. But every time if you write this word, people say, Buddhism. This pointer say only Buddhist term using this. So every time when you see this, you are quickly say, let's talk about some Buddhist matter related to Buddhism. Okay, so that is the author suggests. Chan stand in contrast to the fluid meaning of the contemporary English term meditation or mindfulness, which point to a generic form of mental training believed to be universally accessible, an attention-based technique for inner transformation. If you read this article, remember, the author using another example to parallel this. Remember what the example? The author who explained this? Anyone? Remember, if you read the article?
I read a lot this week, I'm sorry.
So how about the author talk about tennis? Because sometimes when we read this, you have to see the author using presentation skill to help you. Yes?
I don't fully remember, but I remember he's using tennis as an analogy for. I don't fully remember, but in the paragraph where he was referencing tennis and how you can't fully compare it to Zen or meditation to give some.
Yes, that has some meaning. Tennis actually, though sometimes in the Western world we always say meditation is a technique. It's a kind of a skill, right? So every time when we talk about mindfulness, every time you say, how to breathe, how to relax, right? It's more like a how-to. It's a kind of the technique. So just like the tennis, every time when you learn the tennis, right, you learn the style, how to swing, and based on your body, how to swing can make a maxima, or you want the going down and how to using your hand, right? So when you say tennis, if you see the menu, okay, how to, every time when you see something like a how to menu, they also always talk about the technique. Say, doing this, you are go to far like a golf, right? How to swing, you can go to, you want the far or you want the close, right? So that is a Western idea about meditation called, well, that is a menu, it's a technical, right? But he also suggests, no, actually, the tenet in the chant, instead of a chant, is beyond the technique, right? If you read how to in unless you talk about professional tennis player, right? Then they will talk about sportsmanship, right? Your mind, your thing. Otherwise, if you read the tennis manual, they only teach you 1, 2, 3, right? Then you learn from that. But Chan, especially Chan and text, right? This next we will go to the Chan scripture, okay? But this week they also talk about the Chan text. It's much more beyond the technique, right? They talk about achievement. They talk about the level. So it's the different. So that's why the author say the Chan and the meditation have a different connotation. Okay. So that is the kind of the way the author opened this field for us. And when we enter this field, we will engage a lot of historical material. Yeah, because based on the human science, a lot of time we rely upon the textual material. So the other thing we also talk about is how we engage the textual material. Okay? So the first thing we have to understand what means hagiographic. Anyone know hagiographic?
It's like the lives of the saints.
Life of the saint, right? So if you pray these people, you will give a lot, all the beautiful word, all the respected kind of the thing into what we call biography. When you describe a saint like Jesus, Buddha, right? So you are using every ideally word, the highest supreme word to describe the saint, right? So that is a hagiographical collection. Is a kind of the Chinese way to memorize the eminent monk, right? The master, okay? So hagiographic collection produced by known author, that is the only way you can read or you can know who is the Huimen, who is the Bodhidharma. Right? You only can rely upon the biography made by their disciple, made by their follower. So a lot of time, the author say that is a hagiography, it means bunch of the beautiful word. My teachers never have a mistake. He's the saint. Okay, so those kind of historical material we were dealing with that. Okay, such a biography of an eminent monk by Hui Jiao. Hui Jiao is you can see that is 6th century. 6th century the author. Although these collections do contain ample measures of historical accurate information, right? Some the eminent monk in the biography in this collection is a real master. Okay, they have a title, they have a kind of the learning curve, you know. Although the author say it's a correct, ample measure is so correct. When it comes to their descriptions of normatively significant practice, such as meditation, we must approach them not as a record of the life of specified individuals, but as an exemplification of ideas. They are source of the real history of ideas. So in another word, when we read his very famous monk in 3rd century, that is 1800 years ago, right? The only we call reliable source is this hagiographic collection, right? So maybe the monk, birthday, birthplace, and all the name probably is accurate. But when the biography talk about the achievement, something like meditation, this master in light is more like just like the Buddha, and those all kind of the thing. He also warn us, say, don't feel that is accurate. Maybe it's accurate, but sometimes a lot of time it's more like his follower or disciple praise their teacher, right? So that's why, but it doesn't mean fail. It doesn't mean we just discard it. Yes.
Is there something about the kind of cultural milieu of China at the time that caused them to want, not exaggerate, but like make these ideals versus,
yeah.
The early Nikaya seemed to be more pragmatic.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of time when we read we call textual material, we have to understand we call authorship. It means who make this text. Okay. Sometimes the author behind the scene, he or she have his or her own agenda to produce this text. Okay. So that's why every time when we dealing with the textual material, especially religious studies, okay, and we have to figure out what's the motivation. Have this text be remembered and continue. Very generally say you have to read this text to know what happened on that day. That kind of the advice is a kind of the we call discursive practice. Okay. In a chaplain, every time when you listen the witness report, right, you will read a lot of report produced by the other people for you, right? The nurse, the doctor, or even some we call specialists. Sometimes we read that kind of thing, don't just read in the surface, the literal meaning. We have to digest, we have to see why this kind of a statement will show up here. Maybe they point or imply something. Okay, that's called hermeneutics. Anyway. So here you just say they are source of real history idea. So that actually the author said that they actively contribute to our understanding of how Buddhist meditation was thought about and the role it was imagined to have in Chinese society and in the life of Chinese Buddhism at that time. In other words, everything practiced to record it in this kind of the hagiography is talk about expectation. This means idea, okay? That is the most ideal meditator, that is the most ideal Chan master at that time, and using this name to represent, that is the idea. So every time when we see the monk ABC reach that kind of level of he attend the highest level of the meditation, he can perform the magic, he can do something, he can read, he can focus. The author suggests that is the idea. It means that is the imagination at that time when Chinese Buddhists see if you call these people master, they have to perform this. They have this capacity. Okay, so that is called real history of the idea. For the idea, it's a real. So that is in 2nd century when Chinese Buddhists expand meditation can have this power. Okay? So that is the kind of the suggestion. So given this idea, then we can begin to engage the literature, the text, the textual material to talk about. Okay? So the first topic, I read this article, he also actually talk about development of the Chan before 5th century. Okay, 5th century. Okay. So maybe I can give some historical timeline here. Okay. Every time we're familiar with the Bodhidharma, right?
It's Damo.
Damo, yes. Bodhidharma in the China is around like the year I don't know. So around like late 4th century. All the Zen or Chan studies starting from this because he is the first patriarch for the Chan school, right? So follow that, you have the second patriarch Hui Ke, the third, the fourth, right? All the history of the Chan is follows through that, right? And An Shi Gao, that is the one later we will call. He actually in China is around 1st century, late. In between, they have 300-year gap. Okay, so this section is really talk about this 300-year gap. Okay, so Japanese scholar Nukaria Kaiten, he is a 19th century, early 20th century, the Japanese scholar. His publication actually give a very strong paradigm for the first generation of the Zen scholar in the West. Okay. He divided three Bodhidharma forms of the Chan before early 5th century into two categories. The first called Hinayana meditation. Hinayana meditation, he referred teachings contained in the early meditation text translated by An Shi Gao. He actually active in China in this 148. So actually it's the 2nd century. 2nd century, okay? And the other consists of traditional Indian method, such as the contemplation of impurity and the four trance, which led to the attainment of major power and the 4 level of sainthood. So that's called Hinayana meditation. Anyone know the 4 level of the sainthood, right? The highest one is the Arahant. Okay?
Yes.
So this Japanese scholar say so-called Hinayana meditation, this word actually we're not using now. This Hinayana have some historical context when Japanese scholar developed this term before World War II. Okay? So Hinayana meditation, he refer everything called traditional Indian method. It means the right translate, the right migrate from the Indian context into China. Okay? So that's called Hinayana. So the second category called Mahayana meditation. Okay? Mahayana meditation, he refers the teaching of radical emptiness that will become permanent in later Chan and Zen school in China and Japan, and which he traced a different string of the early Chinese Buddhist literature associated with the translator Lakosema 知柔家谦. He also is the same. He actually is a very similar with the An Shi Gao. Okay, so this Indian translator, the scripture he translates is more close to early Mahayana tradition. Okay, and the An Shi Gao actually, based on his definition, belong to Hinayana. It means Theravada. But we are not arguing about this category, okay, because they have some meaning behind, and it's not this class to manage this topic. But based on this, the Japanese scholar decide An Shi Gao, actually the Chan text we are talking about today, belong to Hinayana. And he also implied later Chan school is based on Mahayana. So that's why An Shi Gao and his follower about Hinayana meditation disappeared when the Bodhidharma come into the scene. Okay, so that is a Japanese scholar idea. But actually, in today, the modern scholarship, a lot of people still using this to extend the Chan history before Bodhidharma. Okay? So okay, in that framework, so we can see the distinction of An Shi Gao and Dhammakasa Zhu Fa Hu. These two actually is the first generation of the translator. They are foreign monks. Okay, he come from Perth, and he come from Dhammakasa come from Gandhara, I believe. He probably come from Gandhara.
Gandhara,
Yeah.
Pakistan.
Because this last name in China have an Indian origin. They come from Zhu, mean India. So this come from the India, okay, and this An is come from Perth. Okay. So based on the existing literature, they also collect neither figure is anywhere said to have been a teacher of the practice of meditation or even to have engaged in this activity himself, much less to have reached any noteworthy meditate attainment. In other words, these two translators, they are translate. They are not practice. They only translate the text. They not practice. Based on the Chinese source, these two didn't practice meditation. But some meditation texts translate by them. Okay. So that is Sun Rui. Sun Rui is also a famous. He is a disciple of the Kamaluji. Is a very famous Chinese monk in the 5th century. Okay. He wrote in 4.2. Okay, it's a preface of the translation from the Kamaluji. Okay. Formerly here in China, translation were made of meditation texts such as the scripture on the stage of cultivation by Dhammakasa, and the large and the smaller version of the scripture on bliss meditation by An Shi Gao. Those texts do indeed pertain to this matter, but they are not sufficiently detailed, and furthermore, no one has transmitted or received their method. Regulation for this wishing to learn Chan have thus been wanting. Okay, so you can see the Sun Rui, based on the Sun Rui's account, why the An Shi Gao, after they translate the meditation text, didn't enter Chinese life. Because based on the eyes of the Sun Rui, the text the An Shi Gao translate is incomplete. They think it's not the full version of the Indian meditation. Well, that is a very normal attitude to the early translation. So that's why in the 4th, 5th century, the Chinese monk began to travel back to India and try to brought by all full scale of the scripture. Okay? Because they assume those first generation the Anshigao and like such as Anshigao Dhammakasa, they are traveling monk. They just come from the India and for some opportunity they were invited. So that's why they didn't have a plan. They didn't bring everything. So they just bring kind of the small, like just like today. You just bring everything you can have, right? Then to China. So that's why the translation only translate piece from here, piece from there. It's based on his own library, right? So it's not a very organized way to bring a full set of like a Yokohara or kind of the whole school material back to China. So that's why it's a different. And all the Chinese monks always suspect the early translation say it's not complete. They even cannot make sure the text is the original text or not. So that's why that is a kind of the first 500 years of the Buddhism enter China. Okay? That is a reality. But at that time, he also suggests the Chan at that time is not very significant in a Chinese Buddhist life. All of accounts share two characters. Okay, the first, the Chan of early Chan scripture is deemed as incomplete or inferior Hinayana variety in relation to the Mahayana approach to meditation that flows later. Okay, and I believe that is a lot of people still thinking in this way today. So every time when you talk about the Chan, they will naturally start with Bodhidharma. They think everything before the Bodhidharma is incomplete. And they're only dealing with the self-enlightenment. They're only dealing with so it's not the Mahayana like Bodhisattva, and you meditate because you want to save all the sentient being. You have to vow, right? So everything when you talk about the Anshigao, like breathe, right, those kind of technique, they think that is only for your own benefit. It's not fit the Mahayana idea. Okay, so that is a very general sense about the people think about the thing before Bodhidharma. The second, no attempt is made to question the relationship between text and the people. I don't know everyone, can anyone explain what's meaning of this? What's mean the relationship between text and people? I believe that is a very important concept. Anyone want to get a try? What's mean relationship between text and the people? Anyone can give me some example? There's no relationship between this text and the people.
Text is like it's evidence, evidence of the source.
Right. So what's mean no relationship?
Or no relationship.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Now the question is no attempt is made to question the relationship between text and people, right? So the first sentence. So my question is what's mean the relationship between text and people? Any example? Yes?
This is a guess, but something like the Heart Sutra is very integrated into society. People can treat it as something beyond what's just found in the text.
Right. So practice the Heart Sutra in life, right? The other example? Relationship between text and the people. You don't know what question? if you produce a paper, and then after you produce, I just throw into the garbage, what's the meaning of that?
So the people create text.
Won't read it, right?
Yes.
So at least the first level of the relationship between text and the people is people read it.
And
And after read it, cultivate, criticize.
Okay.
Yeah.
Convey the meanings.
Yeah, so that's why it's about you practice the Heart Sutra in life, right? So that's why the relationship between text and the people were very close. Very close, right? So when we say text and the people relationship, so if you just go through our downstairs library, right? You know a lot of book and the article there, right?
Yeah.
But you just pass through. You even have an intention to take it out to read it. It means no relationship between this text and the people, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you also say no attempt, it means the people before the Bodhidharma in China, based on their describe the text, didn't have any emotional attachment to those texts. There is a text. So when they disappear, it's a disappear. No one cares. No one remember. If you go through Chinese history and any history, you will see some texts being forgotten. It means totally lost in the history. People produce the text, but only a minority of the text being remembered, being transmitted until today. We call classic, right? But think about how many texts produced in the history, human history. So when people won't remember this text, it means people didn't convince that this text is important. This text is have to remember. Dunhuang Cave. I mentioned that in this class or the other class. Yeah, last in this class. Dunhuang Cave, actually, some scholars assume this is a garbage. It's a kind of the text at that time when people say it's no use, so just throw into that cave. It means meaningless, or even it's a danger material. So we have to collect everything and dump into the. So that's why in Dunhuang Cave, same subject, maybe you can find 10 or over 10 transcript, right? This means people intentionally collect this text and put it into the garbage. It means no relationship is needed for this text, right? So that's why he also, that is an example, okay? So he also says no attempt. It means people before Bodhidharma, the 4th century, 3rd century Chinese people, not care about it. Oh, that is the text. So if that text is missing, it's okay. Right? So that's why if you're dealing with the Chinese material, a lot of time some texts only have title. No one have a real text. That is a kind of the historical, I will say it's more like a historical eyes to see the ideological change at that time. People begin to think that thing is a danger, or that thing is it didn't have any relationship. So just throw it out. Just throw it out. Okay. So that's called relationship between text and the people. So the author suggests no curious. It didn't have any question to differentiate Buddhist meditation as something written about in sacred religious scripture, and the Buddhist meditation as a practice carried out by living people and as a socially defined attribute of such people. No one care. No one care to ask this question. Okay. So that is also suggest that is a vivid picture before Bodhidharma, when Chinese people dealing with those meditation texts. Okay. Why the author give this kind of general idea about people think about Chan text? He actually find out a paragraph in the biography of Agnes monk. You can see the date. It's around 6th century. It's early 6th century, early 500. Okay. Suddenly change. In this hagiographic collection, the author describes so-called Chan practitioner, meditation practitioner. He led this description. Ever since Buddhism came from India to China, the path of Chan has also been transmitted. Okay? In the beginning, foreign missionaries such as Anzhi Gao and Dhammaraksa translate Chan scripture. Chinese monks such as Chen Guang and Tan Yu cultivate their mind based on these teachings, ultimately attain supreme achievement. As a result, inwardly they were joyous and happy, while outwardly they are able to subdue demonic apparition, and multi-story cliff they draw away devilish ghosts, and on a solitary crag they caught glimpse of divine monk who appear miraculously in response to their practice. You can see that is an attitude change, right? In the early 5th century, the author like Hui Jiao, when he made this biography of Agnes monk, he left this description. In this description, you can see I highlight the word has also been transmitted. He said, yes, Anzhi Gao and all the early Chan texts, people learn it. People using that, people have a relationship with this text, right? And he makes something like Shen Guang and Tan Yu. Although these two maybe didn't have any, maybe it's not a real person, but at least the Hui Jiao put the name. Actually, name say they are benefit from this Chan text. They cultivate the mind and they reach the supreme achievement. Even that, he make a kind of description about what kind of achievement, right? Inwardly happy and outwardly they are subdued, the commemoration, and even they have a vision. They have a vision to see this. Okay, so you can see it's a very complete hagiographic account. But remember, when the second slide say the author suggests this practice maybe is not real for these two people, but all the description represent the idea, represent in early 5th century the Chinese people, Chinese monks project into meditation. Meditation has such functions. But then that this word actually is very common. It's not very strange in today's, right? Because we know that has some function about meditation, right? But in the 5th century, the author suggests that is a dramatic change. People begin to appreciate meditation. So that is the author, the first chapter pointed. That is a dramatic change in that 300 years. Any question?
She quoted Dhammaraksa, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they translated the original text from India, right?
Yes.
But all through this is a Chinese monk, right? They try to
No, they are foreign monk.
foreign,
Yeah.
foreign.
Yeah. Because in previous slides, he already say in that 300 years, when he inventory all the Chinese material, they didn't say anything about these two. They are meditation master, or they have a practice, or even they are achieved the highest achievement or not. No one mentioned that. They only mentioned these two is a translator.
It is later on.
Yeah.
Dharma, right?
So that's why in the early 6th century, the early 500, he also say tremendous change. The An Shi Gao and the Dharma Raksa, their translation text, someone did read it and someone practiced.
He's from India. He's not Chinese.
Yeah, they are foreign monks. They are translators.
Foreign monk.
Yeah, but these two people, Shen Guang and Tanya, is a native born Chinese.
It says foreign missionaries such as Anshigao.
Yeah, for instance, such as An Shi Gao and Raksa. They translate and the Chinese monk read it. They even benefit, follow their instruction and cultivate and reach the highest achievement. And even the achievement, the author describes, I believe, based on both accounts. They self-report what kind of the vision they see, right? To indicate they really see the highest supreme achievement.
I try to figure out beyond the same or the illness who's the who's the founder of this Dhyana or Zen.
No. Father of
The father of the Zen, like we talk about the Bodhidharma. Right?
Bodhidharma is the original old Chan school, Chan history. It's based on starting with Bodhidharma. That is how the classroom is how the